Good afternoon, and happy to be here in person. I have attended earlier only remotely for practical reasons, so this time I could make it. So we started our 6-year research early on, already May 2018, and the program government funding will finish next summer, next June actually. And for that reason, we have started already to think about our experiences on 6G. What are the important things that most likely will be missed out, unfortunately, from the worst versions, at least from 6G standard? And that's why we started to think about already beyond 6G, a little bit, could be done already within 6G standardization era, but most likely this hasn't yet gained enough interest for the standards process time. I was very happily remarking that KT presentation earlier this morning, similar things were addressed. Their priorities are on improving coverage and making networks resilient, very much how we see it. So every generation of mobile systems, there has been a slogan against which we have been pushing the development. And we started to look what would be the next one. Obvious 7 is the next number. Hopefully it doesn't take that long time, but we are thinking about the next thing to be driving our research. So this is researchers' view I have to address. So lots of societal issues. Resilience, sustainability, AI-driven society. Those are, in our opinion, the key things. And in this presentation, I'm addressing resilience for 6G and beyond. So what are the reasons for studying this and suggesting to study this area? First of all, there's an increasing frequency of all kinds of natural disasters because of climate change, earthquakes, floodings, storms of different sorts. So these are threatening our society's critical infrastructures. When something happens, we have power outages, we have malfunctioning telecommunication networks, and we are a little bit lost. Also, unfortunately, cybersecurity is increasing trend everywhere in the world, and there are criminal groups which are practicing all kinds of nasty things, harming our telecommunication infrastructure. Unavoidable, not desired, but happening all the time. What we are seeing now in Europe, we have actually a pretty nasty eastern friend to Finland, which is practicing lots of things that some people say that these are signs of hybrid warfare already. So countries attacking different countries, and many European countries are suffering from this, at least from GPS jamming on frequent basis, but many other things happening as well. So the big question is, this is a picture made by AI, so tornadoes burning and other interesting things. But what is the status of mobile networks? Are we able to take hits? Can we recover from intentional attacks or nature-induced attacks of storms, etc.? That is the big question. So, from the beginning of our flagship program, we had a list of priorities, critical drivers pushing our research, whatever we did in past. And we added only one thing, the second bullet, resilient society via intelligent networks. The other ones have remained the same all these 7 years. So there are lots of technology drivers that every researcher has their own, let's say, priority list on those. Of course, standardization, business ecosystems, new ecosystems, how do we generate more value for the investments in the future? And then digital inclusion, the global coverage. So we are so much dependent on digital infrastructure that everybody deserves to be served. And then resilience, which is the topic of this talk today. We all know so many different ways to keep boosting the capacity performance to higher and higher numbers, basically having more spectrum like Thomas was already discussing about a bit, or using the existing spectrum more efficiently to spatial splitting or spatial domain signal processing or whatever fancy AI-inspired transmitter-receiver algorithms to boost up capacity. But how can we improve resilience? Remains still a little bit, let's say, unsolved. And although ITUR has mentioned it so many times, and in the Working Party 5D draft documents that I have seen so many times, they mention resilience in the documents, but it never develops towards any concrete targets. So it's just a word amongst 1,000 other words without real meaning, unfortunately, so far at least. So let's try to address a little bit resilience. In the USA, there is this MDRI initiative that already is adopted a couple of years back by FCC, and they're really pushing the national operators to collaborate in the case of emergencies. This is, let's say, the right way to do some simple things, national agreements to make your critical infrastructure more accessible during some failures. In 3GPP, there is this mission critical communication concept, which is developed mainly for railway communication systems, also maybe for public safety services. And this work is ongoing, which is another, let's say, nice sign of right type of developments. In EU level, there is also this formal certification for critical communication systems where they try to address cross-border operations between public safety officers when something happens. In Europe, we have so many different countries in rather small geographical areas that many times when something happens, we always have this cross-border issue in our hands. So Commission has addressed this, and some of the activities started already more than 15 years ago, but still not much in standardization. So there are lots of things that could be done easily. Some national regulation-related issues could be done without any changes to any standard, just regulators starting to insist and act upon improving the availability of their national mobile network services. For example, force national roaming when it's needed. Very simple thing to do. We have roaming within European countries already. When we travel to any country, any European operator customer gets nicely served wherever we travel. We can do it nationally as well. No incentive for commercial operators to. Some medium-term actions are related to 6G standardization. So first of all, 3GPP standards process should take resilience targets seriously as a long-term process. Start to talk about it, how it could be addressed, and different phases. Personally, I think that to address these issues would take 10 to 20 years. We have been addressing capacity and performance issues 20, 30 years. And we are actually doing pretty well in that sense. But for resilience, we need to think it long term. There's no, let's say, fast ways to solve it. And for example, we could have some safe modes or fallback modes, different operational modes, if the situation insists so. For example, if we have major power grid outage happening, we should push the mobile network to operate in power conservative mode. For example, like primarily using D2D connectivity solutions, because we users are carrying our handhelds, which we can charge easily, even mechanically, with these fancy machines to charge them. Or we can have different levels of operation modes, normal mode, mild malfunction, serious malfunction, total network failure, whatever. But to have robustness built in. And it doesn't mean countrywide or large area-wide operation mode change. It would require changes locally where these events are happening. Then longer-term actions, which are more interesting to us researchers, is to look at new research topics and ideas, areas, looking at resiliency improvement issues. And resilient by design, inspired by all sorts of AI, RAN algorithmics, everything that whole research world is studying these days. It goes to the direction that networks become self-aware, self-everything, self-healing. Resilience means that we are able to recover from events that we don't know beforehand. Something unknown happens and we just must recover from that. In Finland, this is actually coming into reality pretty fast. Like in many other countries, our country has decided to drop this TETRA standard usage for public safety operations by 28. So they are gradually moving to use commercial mobile networks for public safety operations, fire rescue workers, ambulances, police officers. But we don't have yet full coverage in the country. We have a lot of remote areas which are very sparsely populated. On average, Finland, we have 14 people per square meter countrywide. In northern Finland, we have very sparsely populated areas, but still people live there and they move around. And we cannot really currently trust on the mobile commercial networks operating that. How can we really rely on that in the future is a big question. Then there are lots of questions and open challenges related to 6G resilience, and these have been discussed within our 6G flagship, within European researchers in different forums quite frequently. And then we realized that we have to go a little bit deeper into these, and we have to establish an expert group addressing these and many others in more details. And we launched the group last May or so. It was open call to anybody who wanted to contribute. So it was a global team of experts which have actually started to work on this since last May. And the target was to start writing a 6G resilience research questions addressing white paper, which is finalized as we speak now. It will be published in 2 weeks from now in a 6G resilience summit in city of Oulu in Finland. And I will show you some of the highlights of this white paper. First of all, the motivation is very clear and it's obvious. Traditionally, speed, latency and capacity of network services has been addressed primarily, and anything related to security and robustness is an add-on later added feature, if feature at all. Now these resiliency related issues has to be put first order in the design principles, or should be. So this is the opinion of the expert group, not just my own personal opinion. And it should not be an afterthought. So it should be built-in feature of the future network. There are lots of terminological things that need to be cleared out. Resilience is different from robustness or reliability. They are related, but different. Like I said earlier, resiliency means ability to withstand, adapt, recover from both expected and unexpected events or failures. There are many other terms that need to be cleared, and those have been investigated in details. Then there are lots of architectural principles that can help out us to get networks more resilient. Modularity, redundancy and diversity, which is one of the key themes there. We need some redundant systems in order to be sure that we can continue communications when one system fails. Who is willing to invest on such a setting? Maybe modern thing to look at is to have AI native design where we automatically adapt the network if it's needed. We need to be able to observe that something goes wrong, automated manner again. And everything has to be programmable as we are seeing today in these O-RAN type of developments and AI-RAN related developments in research community. So multi-access, it was already shown earlier today that we need to integrate all possible means of communication networks. NTN is really interesting, finally, something which we can say achievable solution for the future. We have been discussing about it so long time, and only after Starlink became so successful and functions pretty well, this has become reality that finally mobile networks and satellite networks could work hand in hand in the future, which is great. So we have also other NTN solutions besides satellites. We have aviation systems, HAPS, UAVs, etc., etc. In the optimal case, these should all somehow jointly collaborate, and we should have some standardized interfaces so that it's possible. Other technology enablers, we have AI, we have been discussing more than enough during these 2 days. Security and trust is, of course, as we know, super important. Energy awareness, we have to remember that in the case of failure, most likely power limitation is severe. We have to work that out. How to minimize the interdependence of mobile networks and power grids. How to utilize renewable energy sources maximally. How to utilize these battery farms efficiently to help out in the case of failures. Integrated sensing and communications. Yeah, we need to understand that something is wrong in the neighborhood or in the system. Use the network as a sensor to sense things around us. So a lot of different things that are happening already now, pointing to the right direction. Yes, if we get solutions to these, we can make networks resilient. Business aspects, of course, nothing happens without incentive, and operators, they need to have clear business cases to motivate them to look why resilience is important. And the group looked at also different use scenarios, why or what would be incentivize operators to really look at these issues. And finally, regulation. Nothing without regulation and standards push or agreements will become reality. Without 3GPP taking this seriously, these are just empty words. Of course, gradually mobile networks become more and more resilient, robust, reliable. It will happen, but we could speed it up. And I think, in our opinion, we should speed it up. The group also, they laid down a draft roadmap how this could be solved gradually, so relatively long time span. That is the main message of the whole team. Nothing happens immediately, but we must have a long-term goal and determined to go to this direction. Thank you very much for your attention.